Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here, as you guys can see up on the screen. Today, we're going to be covering an interview that Travis Gafford just recently did with Perkz. If you guys are interested in taking a look at the whole interview without me kind of, giving my little interjections and talking points and everything about the interview, you can definitely go over to Travis Gafford's YouTube channel. This video is called Perkz is Frustrated by Playoffs in North America. As a pro player, this is a horrible experience, where one of the main talking points and things that I want to cover in this video is Perkz giving his take on a big problem that he sees in North America right now, and something that he thinks could have an effect on himself, Cloud9, but also other teams in North America, and also North America's performance as a whole going into MSI, and something that could continue to hold them back, and it could just really be a big issue. And it was kind of a big oversight by the owners of the LCS, not the owners of the LCS, but I guess the LCS commissioner and just the LCS team in general, and it could really be a big problem. And I definitely understand what Perkz is saying, so we're definitely going to hear what he's talking about, cover that, and then see what other little tidbits and pieces of information we can get from Travis Gafford and Perkz in this interview. Maybe we'll skip around some parts if it's not so exciting, but Perkz is a guy who always gives a good interview, popular player, so this should be a fun one. Before getting to that, I just want to mention real quick, if you guys have not already, please take a second and smash that subscribe button. I would appreciate it so much. Helps me out a ton, obviously, running those numbers up, making us look better, helping our channel perform better, but it also helps you guys stay up to date on all my latest content so you don't miss out on anything we got going on in the future. LCS playoffs, LEC playoffs, MSI right around the corner, tons of awesome videos coming up. Also, we have like a mini off season right before the summer split too, which is always fun and exciting here. Also, drop a like on the video if you do enjoy it. It really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. It's an awesome way to help support my channel and my content. With that being said, let's get right into this. Travis Gafford, what do you got for us? This interview was posted, I think, just a couple hours ago, so this is pretty fresh, pretty new. I've seen bits and pieces of it, haven't seen the whole thing, so we're just going to kind of be watching it together, giving my reaction, giving my thoughts, and my opinions.
I'm joined right now by Perkz from C9 after I guess an easy 3-0. Do you feel like that was an easy 3-0 over 100T?
Yeah, it was fairly easy 3-0. Yeah, we didn't play that great. But they played pretty well, yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, I saw in the post-game interview.
I think that's funny, just obviously him, being very candid and being very open and honest and saying, yeah, that was a very easy 3-0. Definitely seemed like a very easy 3-0 to me. I knew Cloud9 was going to come into that series confident. 100 Thieves obviously hadn't been looking very good, and we know the 100 Thieves isn't necessarily a team that Perkz has respected all that much in the past, thinking back to that Perkz into his, the LeBlanc into Azir game where he got the early solo kill. He goes for the Magi, just kind of stomps all over him. And then playoff Perkz, getting those playoff buffs. Cloud9 having more experience, having more talent. 100 Thieves didn't really put up a fight. They've kind of been in turmoil for the last couple of weeks since their hot start to the season, and things haven't been looking good. So yes, it was an easy series for Cloud9. That wasn't totally unexpected, but I'm glad Perkz, didn't kind of beat around the bush at all either, which is not something he's known for, but that's why I think he's a great interview and a great personality.
Interview with Latigris, you're like, I don't know if I deserve player of the series, but it was interesting to me because I think there's a lot of playoff Perkz talk coming out right now, and even on the Cloud9 subreddit I saw old G2 fans coming over and being like, guys, just you wait until playoff Perkz activates. Do you feel like playoff Perkz is activated, or it sounds like you were not impressed with your own play that series?
Oh, I was happy with my play, besides game 3. I think game 3 was just what kind of threw me off, or not threw me off, but more, let's say, gives me more motivation for next series, I guess. That I have to play a bit better and work a bit harder and think about all the variables in the games and how to play the mid game, I guess. So yeah, I think I made 2 mistakes in game 3 that made me not super happy about my performance, but I'm still happy. I still think I played well and I was quite strong today in every game. So it's not like I was useless or something. It's just I want to have perfect games. That's what I strive for.
Gotcha.
And I think that's such a good mindset by Perkz. Obviously, in a series where most people would say they didn't really get much out of it, they just kind of stomped all over 100 Thieves. He's still being self-critical. He's still looking for improvements in his play and stuff. He still wants to be better. And I think that's a great mindset, and that's how, great players like him can be great over years and years and years and be super consistent and always be at the top of the game, no matter what region they're in, no matter what position they're playing, no matter what team they're on. And I really wish more pro players and coaching staffs and really everybody had that mindset, because it'd be really easy to just stomp all over 100 Thieves and then pat yourself on the back and talk about how good you are. And Perkz does that to an extent. He's a trash talker. He says he knows he had a good series and everything, but he wants to be perfect. He wants to be better, which is awesome. And as far as the player of the series, I know there's a lot of debate between whether it was Perkz, whether it was Blabber, and a lot of people thought Blabber got snubbed and that maybe Perkz didn't deserve it as much. But I mean, still for Cloud9 to have two guys that even have a like argument to be made for them being player of the series is a good sign going forward for them. It means, you know, they have multiple people playing at a high level right now. They're looking good, and obviously they have a very, very formidable opponent in Team Liquid coming up. They're going to need Perkz playing well. They're going to need Blabber playing well. They're going to need people stepping up and pushing each other and competing with each other for who is playing the best right now, because they're going to need everybody, you know, playing at their peak. So I think that's a good sign for Cloud9 fans.
Do you think that the playoff Perkz buff is real, and is that starting to come into play yet?
It definitely is real. Sorry to break it to all of you guys, but it is real. I mean, it's just like it's more being like centered on around league, I guess, and usually the seasons are long, so you have to learn how to control your motivation, or like motivation, just like your practice and peak at the right times. And in playoffs, I know exactly what I want to play and what comps we want to play as a team, and that makes me just play better, obviously. Giving knowledge to me in specific team comps, just knowing what to do, I guess. But yeah, I think it's not super much different from the regular season. Just like I'm just more in the zone, I guess.
Well, I do want to talk.
And I think that's absolutely hilarious that, you know, he doesn't shy away from it, that he acknowledges and says, yeah, guys, you know, I'm sorry to let you guys know. Maybe some of you NA fans, maybe some of you LCS fans don't know. Maybe 100 Thieves didn't know. Maybe Team Liquid doesn't know. But playoff Perkz is real. And he talks about, obviously, you know, having to focus more on League of Legends in the playoffs and all that stuff. Because I don't blame him. These regular seasons, they really don't mean much. With how the LCS is structured right now, playoffs is all that matters, especially spring split regular season. Cloud9 is at no risk of not making the playoffs in spring or not making the playoffs in summer, and their only results that are going to matter, whether they get titles, whether they get to go to MSI, and whether they get to go to Worlds, is all about the playoffs. And, you know, so these guys are really not incentivized, other than to try and get better over the course of the season pretty arbitrarily, to really care that much about regular season results or to really give their best, because they're getting better in scrims, or they're practicing all the time. They're learning to grow and stuff as a team, and Perkz isn't at risk of losing his job or his position. He doesn't need to prove himself week in and week out. He's already done that throughout his whole career, and this is the wall that we've seen a lot of veteran players hit. You know, Doublelift has talked about this, Bjergsen's talked about this, guys have talked about just how little they care about the regular season, how little it actually matters, and just how kind of a joke it is. So yeah, I absolutely believe that playoff Perkz exists, and playoff Doublelift existed, and playoff Bjergsen existed. Is playoff Perkz maybe another level, and even some of those other guys, he maybe take a bigger step up because he is more talented and just better overall and more consistent, and he's had more experiences in these big games and pulled out big performances in some of these big games, you know, maybe. But I do believe that a better version of a lot of these good players does exist in the form of playoffs and in the form of big games.
You a little bit about today's match before we get into what's next for you. You said that the 100 Thieves match was pretty easy. What do you think of the team after having played them? Like,
so I don't really want to go over the 100 Thieves stuff too much. What I did mainly want to talk about in this video was the Perkz vents about his frustrations around the playoff patch. So we can just kind of skip ahead to this Twitter video part. This is mainly the stuff I wanted to cover, mainly the stuff I wanted to talk about, because I don't know why they're still talking about the 100 Thieves series. Like, it is what it is. No one was expecting it to be close. It wasn't close. There's not really too many talking points about it. We've already talked about it. Like, I'm not interested in that. I want to get to the spicy stuff, where Perkz does actually talk about the problem that he thinks is going on for North America right now, the problem with the LCS, and something that could affect, you know, the top teams, the whatever team ends up going to MSI. So we will talk about that. Obviously, Travis tweeted out saying Perkz vents his frustrations around the playoff pat situation in the LCS. As a pro player, it's a horrible experience. So let's see what Perkz has to say about that, getting, you know, an expert opinion on the matter as far as the LCS playoff patch goes, and what it means for a lot of the pros and the teams and how it could affect MSI.
Yeah, I mean, the schedule is a bit weird, I guess. Not really used to that, but it's like, it's okay. It's just like, doesn't make that much sense, I guess. Also, what doesn't make a lot of sense is that we're the only region in the world that's playing playoffs on 11.5 patch instead of 11.6. So we're going to be a bit behind heading into MSI, whatever team takes it, right? Because the other teams have been already practicing on a patch, which is like pretty big, I guess. Like the million changes at least. So that's kind of
So obviously this is a big problem, especially when he puts it like that. The fact that the LCS is the only, I don't know if they're the only region in the world, but at least the only of the major regions. You know, we're talking about Europe, Korea, and China. I don't follow the other regions as closely. I don't know exactly when their playoffs has all started and everything necessarily. But again, of the 4 regions, the LCS has started playoffs already. They've started playoffs on 11.5, and the entire playoffs is going to be on 11.5. Yet MSI is going to be on 11.6, which is also the solo queue patch. So obviously Perkz is talking about North American players having to practice and play on 11.5 for like the next month. You know, playoffs is a couple of weeks long, close to a month, and then try and, you know, between playoffs and MSI, whatever one team ends up winning, they're going to have to quickly roll over and figure out the new patch for MSI and how they want to play and their picks and their play style. And like he says, it's specifically a lot of big changes to mid lane. So, you know, obviously he has a more personal touch to this whole thing, but whatever affects your mid laner affects your whole team certainly as well. As where other regions, Europe, Korea, China, they're going to be playing, scrimming, everything on the 11.6 patch for playoffs. And then they're going to have, whatever team ends up winning is going to have proved themselves to be pretty dang good on that 11.6 patch, which is then also going to be the same patch headed into MSI, which could be a big advantage. And then another thing going on is that not only is NA going to be playing on 11.5 for MSI, also solo queue is going to be on 11.6. And this is a problem that happens all the time. You know, pro play is usually like one patch behind live, but right now, the rest of the world is getting to play solo queue and scrim at the same time on the same patch, which could be advantageous for them for mastering the patch, learning the patch, and it can help them out going into playoffs. As to where Cloud9 and the North American teams, right now, if they're playing on live, they're getting a little bit different of an experience. The muscle memory is a little bit different. You know, when you're killing people and exactly your item break points and how much damage you're doing and how the game's functioning is a little bit different. And to me, this is kind of a big oversight by the LCS. It's weird that all the other major regions in the world are going to be on 11.6 for the playoffs, and I think that does make sense that, you know, they're getting their trial by fire during the playoffs, and that feels so much better in a double elimination scenario where you're playing against the best teams in North America rather than the best teams in the world. Like, if I'm Cloud9, I'd rather be learning this new patch against 100 Thieves than against Damwon Gaming in a couple of weeks, and I think that is a big advantage for the rest of the teams in the world, that they're gonna be so much more practice and so much more experience and everything on this patch. Now, luckily, obviously, North America has access to all the other regions. They're going to be able to watch their games and see kind of what the meta is, and they're still going to have a very good idea of what picks are strong and what picks aren't going in MSI, just based off what team ends up winning each region and what picks do well in the playoffs in the other regions. But it does kind of suck that they're not getting that. They're not going to get as much firsthand experience. They're not going to get as much personal practice. And by the time MSI comes around, they're going to be under practice and under scrimmed compared to some of these other teams. And a lot of their learning, especially initially, is going to be based off like VODs and based off, you know, reviews of other regions and stuff. And it's really going to put your analysts to the test. It's going to put your players' adaptability to the test and everything like that. And this could be a really big problem. You know, NA already people would say are the worst of the major regions, and yet sometimes they're even bordering on like a minor region. So they kind of need all the advantages they're going to get. For North America to have a disadvantage over Europe, over Korea, over China, that's going to suck for them going in. It's going to only make things more difficult. And again, not only are they trying to win MSI and compete with these top teams, they're trying to compete with the teams below them too, to prove that they still deserve that major region status, that they are still the 4th best region in the world. And if some of these other regions have an advantage over them, it could affect a lot of different things. It could affect tournament results, it could affect performances, and that would be really unfortunate to see. So it is an interesting, weird decision as far as the schedule for the LCS. I thought it was cool that playoffs started a week sooner, but maybe the regular season should have started a week later to get I think that 2-week break for the playoffs between regular season and playoffs in the LEC, I think that's too long. I don't think there's a reason you need that whole week break for these first round matchups. I like the LCS schedule of actually getting right into the playoffs the next week, but just because it sucks to not have a week of games and everything, and there's no reason for it. There's plenty of time for them to still practice and get all their preparation and stuff in. But you know, it does suck that the consequence of that has been now we are at 11.5 patch. We are at a disadvantage when we could have just moved everything back 1 week, still not had the break, but then still been on 11.6. But you know, obviously that's not what happened. And was that a mistake by somebody at the LCS? Did the LCS just decide that this was going to be better or whatever? You know, we don't exactly know. But this is Perkz kind of venting.
Kind of annoying. I think that's like a little bit just sad that it's NA that is behind the patch. So there's gonna be like there can be some memes, yeah, NA sucks, so they're behind the patch.
Yeah. We're playing a whole different meta.
They can't adapt fast enough. So yeah, other than that, it's like the change is like okay, it's whatever.
So yeah, I think that is also a really, really interesting point in this whole conversation as well, that, North America is not exactly known for proactivity as far as adaptations. They're not known for reading patches super, super well. They're not really known for coming out with new crazy picks ahead of everybody else and having a strategy that is not only different and interesting and maybe something that people didn't prepare for, but is also very, very strong and actually good, and maybe something good that people didn't think about or that people were underrating or underlooking. There has been a couple times in North America's history, but for the most part, it seems like North America is usually behind on adaptation. They're usually trying to copycat some of the better teams in the world, better regions in the world, whatever. So again, this is just another disadvantage in terms of adaptation, and an issue that North America has largely struggled with in the past. So this could really create some future problems. And there's no going back on it now. The LCS, all the top teams have known the schedule for so long. If people wanted to complain about it, the time to complain about it was in the offseason. There's no point in making excuses or anything about it right now. But honestly, this is something that I hadn't really even thought of until Perkz started bringing it up, and it's not something I heard other people talking about. And it could, certainly be a storyline headed into MSI, and I think it'll be interesting to see how prepared North American teams, whoever it is, Team Liquid, Cloud9, TSM, who knows, how prepared they look, especially relative to the other teams. Not only the teams better than them, but the teams worse than them headed into MSI. Obviously, Perkz thinks it's a pretty big deal. He doesn't want to make too many excuses or anything either, but he does say it's a little bit annoying. He is a little bit frustrated, and just overall thinks it's dumb and something that didn't have to be like this. And I do agree with that. But again, North America doesn't exactly hope to have probably the best MSI results in the world anyway, so maybe this, honestly won't even be that big of a deal in the end. Who knows? But that is pretty much it for this video today, guys. Definitely drop a like if you enjoyed it. I would appreciate it so much. It really helps out my channel, my content with the YouTube algorithm. Leave a comment down below. What do you think about this whole situation? Do you think this is a big disadvantage for North America? A medium disadvantage? Not a disadvantage at all? Do you think who cares? NA sucks? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Subscribe to stay up to date on my latest content. Hopefully I catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace!